Welcome back, Chaos and Caffeine family. Buckle up because today we're diving into an episode that's as energizing as our morning espresso shot. I'm thrilled to welcome the incredible Karaleigh Garrison, a powerhouse of creativity and resilience. Karaleigh isn't just a dynamic motivational speaker and classically trained vocalist. She's also the heart and soul behind the internationally acclaimed podcast, Be the Dream. As a fellow neurodivergent parent raising three amazing children on the spectrum, Karaleigh knows firsthand the roller coaster ride that is parenting outside the box. Her journey is a testament to finding sunshine even in the stormiest days. So grab your favorite brew, settle in, and let's get ready to be inspired by Karaleigh's story of turning chaos into harmony. Karaleigh, welcome to Chaos and Caffeine.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here.
So, three neurodivergent kiddos, that's not parenting, that's like extreme survival. Tell me what a typical day looks like for you guys.
A chaos. Chaos. We live and breathe chaos. And I feel like it doesn't just come with the kiddos, it comes with just life in general. Like things just happen. Last week we had two different floods from two different bathrooms, and then the car seat broke and we had to drive around with the car seat laying backward and pillows stacked up. And then my severely autistic semi-verbal 13-year-old, I think he was the one who took the car keys for a day and a half. And because when we finally got them a day and a half later, he just walked into the house holding them like we hadn't been frantically tearing our house apart. So it was like one crazy event after event. And that was our week. And it was just like, oh, here's just another week at our house.
Yeah. It's like we've kind of adapted. This is a normal life for us.
Yeah.
And then other people are like, girl, how do you do it? And I'm like, I don't know. We go to bed early, so that helps.
Right.
So, when you first realized you were going to be a neurodivergent parent, were you shocked or do you believe it's hereditary?
I had no idea.
Mm.
It was definitely, it was, I would say it was shock, but I was in so much denial that I couldn't accept the shock. I couldn't tolerate it. So my oldest was diagnosed. I was a 20-year-old mom, first time mom. I got married at 18. We didn't know that my husband was on the spectrum or that he had ADHD yet. We didn't know that my mother was on the spectrum. She still doesn't believe in any of that. So when my daughter was diagnosed with autism at 3, I was shocked and couldn't comprehend it. Couldn't take it in. But then her brother, who's only 14 months younger, he was 18 months at the time. And she's very high functioning and he's very severely at the low functioning end of the spectrum. And so it was like, oh, if she is on the spectrum, then he definitely is, even though he hadn't been diagnosed yet. And so it was just this whirlwind of, she can't possibly be. She's so, girls tend to mask differently. Even at 2.5, 3 years old, it looks different in girls than it does in boys.
Yeah.
And so it was very much denial for me.
I cannot imagine at 20 what life was like for you. I had my son at 30. And honestly, my ex was military, so we were away from here. And when I was telling people how hard parenting was, they were like, you're just a new overdramatic mom. But then we moved home and they were like, oh, this is serious, So in the first
Yeah.
few months, we knew something was off.
Mhm.
Yeah, everybody thought I was just the overdramatic first time mom. And I was 30, so I can't imagine being 20 going through that.
Yeah. I mean, therapy was a full-time job.
Yeah.
We were doing 4 hours a day for both of them
Mm.
as toddlers, and it was an hour away.
Oh,
So
wow.
we were driving that far away.
So you mean like OT, not therapy for you?
No, it was ABA.
Yeah.
We were driving, and it was just wild.
Mm, I bet. So this is not where I was heading, but I am new to ABA. Would you mind sharing a little bit about your journey with that?
Yeah, so ABA is applied behavior analysis. It is behavior therapy. And for autism, it is the thing that people say to do. It is what insurance will cover if you have insurance. If you don't, you're kind of just out of luck because it's really, really expensive. But if you are on Medicaid like we were, it is kind of the only thing because you get covered. And nowadays, they're like, oh, you must do 30 plus hours a week if you want it to have a benefit. And
Wow.
that's a lot. It's
Yeah.
extraordinarily overwhelming for parents to do, let alone for kids to do.
Yeah.
So when we first started, it was a couple hours a day, and then it would build to 4 plus hours a day every day. And at the beginning, my son Joshua, he would not let me sit on the couch. He wanted me in the kitchen. Even when he was nonverbal, he would just, and he's still pretty nonverbal, but he talks a bit now. But he would just scream anytime I was sitting. He wanted me to be in the kitchen. That's where I belonged. So for ABA, she would hold him while I sat down. And it was like torture because he would just scream and flail and like all sorts of ways of
Yeah.
visibly, yeah, just it was awful to I couldn't relax on the couch while my child was in so much pain
Yeah.
because I wasn't doing what he wanted me to do.
Mm.
So we did ABA, especially with him, pretty consistently for about a decade. And over the last year, 2 years, we've stopped because, well, first we got kicked out. Um, I have I have 3 kids, and one of them has a demand avoidant style of autism, and ABA does not work
Mm.
for demand avoidant personalities.
Got you.
And so, if that is a thing that you are familiar with, or anybody who's listening, I'm happy to talk to you about it. I don't talk about it very often, um, on a personal level, but as a characteristic of autism,
Yeah.
it's really, really difficult. So I have a high functioning daughter. I have a very severely autistic diabetic 13-year-old son. And then I have a demand avoidant called PDA profile, is my youngest. And that was when we stopped ABA for the first time in a decade. And the freedom that we felt
Mm.
when our lives were not dictated by the schedule of ABA was astounding.
Yeah. I can imagine.
It Our lives revolved around it. We couldn't have after school activities. We couldn't because we were stuck. Like we were not allowed to leave our house because we were doing in home. We've done in clinic ABA before, but this time we were doing in home and it was no, we must be home for these hours every single day. And we were
Mm.
never able to do anything. And my husband was working, so I was home and I couldn't go back into it. We tried for a little while and I had this overwhelming, just body filled knowing that I could not make my family do that again.
Yeah.
And so we stopped doing ABA. So we've done all of it. We've done the floor time, we've done the OT and the PT and the ST and we've done it all.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of benefit, but you also have to realize that like they're still children
Yeah.
and they have to have the opportunity to be children. And it's really easy to forget that when you've got all sorts of people in charge telling you what's supposed to happen and what's right for your kids and what they need,
Yeah.
but you're the parent at the end of the day going, this is their childhood and they're going to miss out on all these years of just playing and having fun and learning who they are and being themselves.
Mm. That's a tricky balance. So I definitely want to go into PDA because I am rather new to that, but I don't want to skip over. Was it your children's diagnosis that got your husband diagnosed?
Yeah. And he doesn't have a formal diagnosis. It's more of a, but I think a lot of people, a lot of parents have come to that recognition after their kids were diagnosed. Oh,
Yeah.
wait a minute. I think I might be too. He
Yeah.
does have a formal ADHD diagnosis, but
Yeah, that's a
yeah.
very common story for almost
Mhm.
everyone I've had on the podcast. They were like, so I was filling out this questionnaire for my child, and then I was like, wait, I have that. And then
Yeah.
they take it to their physician, and they're like, oh, yeah, you definitely have it. You're just undiagnosed.
Yeah. When
Which I
it's so
guess is the same
difficult,
for
like
me. Yeah.
it's so difficult for adults to get diagnosed, and it's like
Yeah.
all this money and time and fighting and effort. And for what? For you to feel validated? You can give yourself that validation.
Yeah.
You don't need it to come from a doctor or from some authority figure. You can just be validated and know that your struggles were valid
Yeah.
throughout your entire life.
Yeah. You also said something in there about your mom being in denial. My mom has gotten on board with the fact that she has ADHD, and she has also done a complete 180 on the medication journey. She is actually in treatment now, and she's
Wow.
thriving. And she was like, before,
Amazing.
when I was against medication, she was like, I don't think that was right. And I was like, well, I'm really glad to hear you say that, Mom.
The journey, and everyone has to take it for
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah. I think that the universe gifted us, my son, so that we could all level up in our lives in
Yes.
many different ways.
Learn.
Yeah.
It's all a gift.
Yeah.
You can see it all as an adventure and a gift for us to learn more.
Yeah. So I want you to share your experience with PDA, and then I will tell you a little bit about what I've learned only on this podcast. This is totally new to me.
Yeah, so PDA stands for pathological demand avoidance disorder. And this is my child who's homesick right now. So PDA, my initial experience was so I already have two on the spectrum, and he's 3 years younger than my other two.
Mm.
My severe, very obviously autistic son, Joshua, is the older than this son, and this is the child who one look, and people who don't know what autism is, take one look at this boy and they're like, oh, that's what that is.
Mm.
Oh, very classic. So when Benjamin was born, I just had this knowing. I couldn't put it into words,
Mm.
couldn't figure it out. But I was like, there's something here because he was so difficult. You're so difficult. And yet no one believed me.
Yeah.
I felt like I was being gaslit by every single educational person that I talked to who was like, no, he's fine. There's nothing wrong. And I was like, you really cannot comprehend with this. It's like, so we'd have these moments of Joshua's story is really fascinating because he was completely nonverbal from until he was 7. And when he was 7, he was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes and he started talking.
Oh, wow.
So his story is wild. But so he was around 3 or 4 and nonverbal. And my youngest was 1. And I would be standing there going, okay, say buh, buh for bar. And Joshua would be like touching his face, jumping up and down, giving me indications that he wanted to say something
Mm.
to get the granola bar. And Benjamin, my youngest, would glare at me and lay on the floor and scream because it was placing a demand on it.
Mm.
And he was like, no, I'm not doing it. And so we put him in speech therapy at 1, and he would do the same thing for all of the therapists, not because he couldn't talk, but because he wouldn't.
Mm.
And as we went through this journey, we tried to get him into services, and they'd be like, he doesn't qualify because he's so smart. It was, I'm not going to do things the way you want me to do it. I'm going to do it my way. And as we've come to look at the world through his lens, it has changed everything. And we have to see it. We have to change the way that we ask things of him
Mhm.
and change the way that we look at the dynamic of our family, because he sees everyone as on the same level. He doesn't see my parents are in charge of me, my teachers are in charge of me. I look up to them. He does not see things that way.
Mm.
He sees everyone as equals. And if you do not give him that respect, you he will dish it out. Like, so we've kind of struggled in school. He was diagnosed with ODD and ADHD around 7, but that was the first time we had any indication, any validation that something's any sort of different, even though we'd had difficulties in school. And then about a year later, we took him in for an autism assessment, and he was officially diagnosed with PDA, which is like an anxiety-based ODD. So a lot of people are familiar with ODD,
Mm.
which is oppositional defiance disorder. So it often can mask as ODD, but it has a different basis. It has an anxiety root cause where it's I crave that kind of respect, and I don't feel like I'm good enough without it, versus ODD, which is I don't know as much about. It's not the route we went down. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. And I've seen in his interactions with his teachers and with other people that those who value him and they show that to him, it works out a lot better than those who don't. And those who go, no, you are a child, you have to listen to me. You will not tolerate that. And a lot of people who have children diagnosed with PDA or who see that in their children, because it's not very often diagnosed in the US. It's come from the UK and it's becoming more and more diagnosed in the US. It's becoming more common that people are seeing it and recognizing it.
Yeah.
Parents are going, oh, I see that in myself as well. And he's extremely smart. He's extremely creative. What holds him back is that I don't think anyone should be in charge of me but me. And we look at that in our educational system as a pitfall. But if we can change our perspective and see that as a strength, it changes everything.
I have a couple of questions. Do you think he was misdiagnosed ODD and it was really PDA? Is that what you guys eventually went with?
Yeah, and things like that happen all the time
Yeah.
because, and actually, I've heard there's a lot of people who will tell you that PDA is never diagnosed in the US,
Wow.
but he was diagnosed with it in Utah. So,
Yeah. Interesting. Also, where I first learned about PDA, I had an ADHD parent coach who she teaches positive parenting, which, as you know, is the only way to parent our kids.
yeah,
And she was the first one that introduced me to it. So I was like, it's so interesting, but also so familiar.
yeah, and it's so I've got this dynamic. I've got this, you know, fairly. I mean, he talks. I've got this semi-verbal 13-year-old who is very severely autistic and type 1 diabetic. And then we've got PDA, and they're equally difficult.
Yeah.
Like we kind of teeter-totter back on who's having a harder day. Like it,
Yeah.
um, so that's kind of been my experience.
Looking for some new toys and tools that your ADHD kiddos will love? Play Therapy Supply has you covered with a great selection of toys, games, and fidgets that can be used by ADHD children, their parents, caregivers, and professionals alike. From fidget toys that help children calm down, de-stress, and focus, to social emotional learning resources to help kids understand their feelings and emotions, to games and activities designed to improve emotional regulation. Play Therapy Supply has it all. For thousands of items and fast and free shipping, visit playtherapysupply.com today. One last question. I promise not to dwell there forever. You said that you had to learn how to reframe how you approach it. Do you mind sharing a little bit about that with me so that I can try it later?
Yeah, perspective is everything. It
Yeah.
genuinely changes everything. And seeing your kids' strengths and your strengths and finding your superpowers in that kind of way can really make a massive impact in the way that we view each other. We all have different areas that are our strong suits and our not so strong suits, like we all have things
Yeah.
that we're really good at and things that we struggle with. And if you can look at the things that, society might say is a problem because you're not doing what everyone told you to
Mhm.
do, that doesn't mean that it's a bad thing,
Yeah.
because as children, those things can turn into strengths as adults. So helping somebody to be stronger as a child and be a really great asset as an adult. And we're learning that more in this positive parenting culture.
Yeah.
This whole idea didn't exist 50 years ago, even 30 and 20 years ago.
For sure. That is actually how my journey started. I think my son was 3 and in daycare, and life was just so hard. And I only have one, but his daycare had sent home just a free positive parent training for all parents there. And I went through the training. In the end, those techniques that I learned in that positive parenting program helped,
Right.
like, literally transform our lives. The diagnosis didn't come for
Mm.
years later.
Well, and because of ABA, like every time we've been in ABA in 3 different states. We've done many different companies, many different programs, and every single one of them required us, my husband and I, to have parenting classes right alongside the ABA. Like that was part of the program. So we've had so many parenting classes and we've chosen to have parenting
Yeah.
classes. Like it's like we think that this is like we're
Yeah.
taught that this is something that is supposed to just come naturally, and no, this is a skill. This is something to learn. And
At all.
also it's about knowing yourself and learning who your child is as they learn who they are, because we're all unique.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you feel like the parent trainings that were required for you in these certain therapy settings, do you feel like it was a positive redirect, or do you feel like it's coming from them saying maybe we're part of the problem? Does that make
Do I
sense
feel
what I'm
like they were
asking?
helpful?
Yeah. Do you feel like that you were asked to take these classes or these programs so that it could be parallel to the program, like with you learning how to parent your child? Or do you feel like it's the same old rhetoric as ADHD or neurotypical or neurodivergent children comes with bad parenting? Because
Ooh.
I feel like that is a stigma left around from the 80s that we
I think
cannot get
it's
away
mostly
from.
the first. It's mostly been really, really positive, because, well, a lot of it, especially at the beginning, I grew up in California and we had moved back to California. So our first round of all of that was in that liberal, positive, like the kind of, right. They started there,
Yeah.
um, with that more liberal mindset towards parenting. And then we were in Texas and now we're in Utah. So we've had a variety, of approaches with that.
Yeah.
But I've been, especially, so all three of my kids have IEPs and they've all had IEPs from the very beginning. And every time we've worked with anyone who's working with our kids, whether it's through the educational system or through therapeutic approaches, I've always found that the best way to work with people who are working with my kids is to assume that they have the best,
Mm.
goals and heart for my kids. And they usually do. There's only
Yeah.
been, I mean, we only had one like negative IEP, and that's been one a year for 3 kids for 12 years.
Yeah. I'm
So
so glad to hear it.
yeah, it's huge. And that's across 3 states and many, many schools. It's generally they want the best. And that might not look exactly the same as what I want. And it doesn't have to be, but we all respect each other's opinions. And when you go in with a respectful attitude and believing that we're all on the same team, it
Yeah.
does change the whole vibe of the room. And we can work together for the benefit of the child.
Yeah. I will say we are extremely fortunate to be in a really amazing school where my son's principal has openly shared her ADHD diagnosis story with him. Two of
Mm.
his teachers have had ADHD, and his current teacher has three girls with ADHD. So it's been, I can't explain it. He doesn't get it right now, but one day I hope that he sees like you were at the right place at the right time. You had
Yes.
a great jump start on all of this.
This really is the time for
Yeah.
neurodivergent people to thrive in the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah. So you said something in there about finding the strengths and superpowers in your kiddos. Is that what led
Yeah.
you on your career path?
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's going to be what leads my kids on their career paths too. I mean, my youngest is a phenomenal leader and a great speaker. And I think that he's going to be hopefully following in my path. And I don't mean hopefully as in I'm trying to make him. He's got a lot of talents and a lot of skills, but he really is a great speaker and a great leader. And I think he'll see that it's possible because he sees me doing it
Yeah.
and be more open to that option for his life when he sees me doing that. So I teach public speaking. I teach I'm teaching a workshop on stage fright. I'm Toastmasters president. I teach at BYU. I do a lot of things in the leadership realm, and I'm trying to help him see that when you do some of those things that you have to do in life, which we all have to, complete some of the things, finish high school, finish elementary school, finish the schooling,
Yeah.
get a degree, get the things, like it really does open doors
Yeah.
to amazing, amazing things in life.
So I have a couple of questions. One, why is public speaking my kryptonite? Why so many people, that's like the scariest thing possible. And then second, I want to know how you do all of the things that you do, like literally how with three kids on the spectrum, multiple jobs, like girl, I'm exhausted just thinking about it.
All right, so the first question was, why is public speaking so scary? And the
Yes.
reason is self-worth.
Mm,
The reason is because we don't really believe in ourselves. We get up on stage and all we think about is what other people are thinking about ourselves, thinking about us.
yeah.
We're worried that they think that we don't look good enough, that we don't sound good enough, and we're not prepared with our message. So
Mm,
we have to know, first of all, that we are safe. We are safe. And that comes from the inside out. If you can't be by yourself and feel safe in your own skin, you definitely can't get up in front of a bunch of other people and
yeah.
feel safe in front of them. You've
True.
got to be free to be your kookiest, wildest, craziest self all alone before you can go in front of other people and feel safe being all of yourself in front of other people. My last speech I gave, I got up there and I'm a singer, so I sang. So I always do that. But I also danced. I am not a dancer. And I got up there and I danced. And I wore this, you can't even see it. I wore this hat. It
Oh,
is like 2 feet
I love
tall
it.
and it glitters and is sparkly. Of course, I love wearing crazy things, but you've got to be, you've got to learn how to accept all of you. And that's like especially true for people who are neurodivergent in this world, which is really coming around. It
Yeah.
really, really is. It's coming around. But you have to know who you are and love the hell out of that person first.
Mm,
That is the number one reason why people are afraid of getting
yeah.
on stage or speaking up in meetings because public speaking is so much more than just like, oh, I'm standing on a stage in front of thousands of people. It's also raising your hand in a meeting or being at school and asking a question or talking to the principal because your kid is in trouble again.
Yeah.
It's talking to other humans and not spending that whole time worried about your appearance or
Yeah.
the way you sound or if you are fluent enough to get your message across. Knowing that you have value exactly as you are, and then expressing that confidently. I mean, practice really helps. The more that you get out and speak, and the more that you do these things, you'll feel more comfortable with doing it.
Yeah.
But having a plan, that really helps. There's a lot of tools that you can use to increase the likelihood that you'll feel safe when you're speaking to other people. But it really comes down to that whole self-worth piece. And that's why, like, I started my journey going, okay, how can I help people increase their self-worth? And they're going, wait, I adore public speaking, and knowing your value is really at the core of being able to be confident and share your message authentically. And our audience, whoever that is, even if it's just a single person, they want the real you. They
Yeah.
can connect with the real you. When you're putting on a show, when you're putting up a facade of something that's fake, they can tell, first of all. But then you're missing that connection, that human connection. Like, we all have flaws and we all struggle.
Yeah.
And when you are real, people connect. So, yeah, your
Yeah.
second question
That is
was
not
about.
where I thought you was going with that. But I guess other than how do you do all that you do, me and my therapist have been working on my self-worth for like 5 years now, and we still have so much work to do. So how do you possibly do that in such a short amount of time when you work with people?
It's practice.
Mm.
It's there's the knowledge piece, and then there's the embodiment piece. So you know it and you're like, okay, I know I have value, but I don't feel it yet. So how do you feel it? You put it into practice. You start doing things with it.
Yeah.
So you start wearing what you want to wear. Ooh, I
Yeah.
have a huge, big, sparkly personality. So I like wearing big, sparkly hats and glitter, and like being really bold with what I wear. And it took me a while to be like, wait, people might compliment me on it. They might hate it. They might think I look ridiculous, but I can be okay with myself if I wear it anyway.
Yeah.
Mm. And then getting the feedback from people when they're like, oh, I love that. That's amazing. Look how, whoa. And you're like, oh, oh, people like real me.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking your truth, like saying what you actually feel, saying what you wanted to say the whole time. And sometimes you might get negative feedback, but you'd be surprised at how often people are like, that was so refreshing. I'm so thankful that you shared that because it made me feel like I can be a human too.
Yeah.
And so it starts with knowing it, but then acting on it, embodying who you really want to be. So you can start by envisioning, okay, who do I want to be in 5 years? What does that person look like? What does she act like? What does she talk like?
Mhm.
What is she doing with her life? How can I start being some of that right now? My podcast is called Be the Dream, and it's about being who you want to be right now. So, like, I wanted to be a public speaker, so I started calling myself a public speaker. And it was funny because my husband, who's on the spectrum, was like, "What are you talking about? You're not a public speaker. How can you call yourself that?" And I was like, "You know what it means to be a speaker? It means that you speak. So I'm gonna call
Yeah.
myself a public speaker." And yeah, I had this doubt inside where I was like, "But it's not real yet. I'm not really that." But the more that I was like in my bio writing, "I'm a public speaker," the more I could feel it and it felt real. And the more I started like attracting opportunities to speak more and more and more.
Yeah.
So it starts with some bold action of being what you want to be. Like, I'm also a singer-songwriter, and my album came out a couple years ago, but the first step of that was having the audacity to call myself a singer-songwriter and like starting by writing a song.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that it has to have all the instrumentals and all the things and be produced and like, oh, I can't call myself that until it's all done. No, you start by, I wrote one line that I could sing a melody to. There, I wrote something. It's done. Now I'm a singer because I sang something. Have the audacity to step into the dream.
I love that so much. Girl, are hitting all of my parenting and my manifestation identity things today. So, I could do this all day, girl. Like, I can't believe I get paid to podcast because this is so fun for me.
I love it.
But
Podcasting is my favorite. I adore podcasting.
But I also want to be respectful of your sick kiddo at home. So I know you have this workshop coming up, and I want you to tell our listeners about it.
Yes, I'm really, really excited. I'm going to be teaching how to overcome stage fright. It is called Fearless and Free. I'm trying to remember the title of it. Oh, I got stuck. I just finished setting up all the details of it this morning. So it is called Fearless and Free on Stage. Own the spotlight with confidence. It is a free workshop. It's going to be 3 days, March 26th, 27th, and 28th at 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. You can go to the website karaleigh.garrison.com/fearless to sign up. And it's going to be really amazing because we're going to go through all of these things to help you stand on stage or really, there's so many opportunities that we have to use our voice in this world where we are held back by fear. And I mean, being on podcasts is one way. Like I also teach podcasters, and there's a lot of fear there where it's like, okay, I need to record this episode and I just have no words. I just cannot get the words out. But even, raising your hand and asking a question, standing up in front of a group of people, being in a group of friends and telling about your day. Like if you are paralyzed by fear and anxiety and you're like, I have all these great things to say. And as soon as I get up there, it disappears.
Yeah.
My brain goes completely blank. I have been there. And I have thousands and thousands of hours of practice overcoming this. And I want to show you some really incredible techniques to help move through the fear and the anxiety and literally the shaking, like getting up there and shaking and doing it anyways. Let's go through that faster so that you can get the incredible message that is inside of you out easier. That's my goal.
I love that. And I think I need to sign up for 2 reasons. 1, so that I can get brave enough to do video podcasting. And 2,
you can do it.
My son had a presentation to do a few weeks back, and he was so prepared. He had done the work. He had written the story. And he was like, Mom, but that's the easy part. He was like, the hard part is tomorrow I have to stand up in front of 17 of my classmates and read it. And I was like, practice on me. And we did that a few times. I had him read it to me over and over, but he was like, it's not the same. So I think I need to join 1 for the video podcasting and 2 so I can teach him how to overcome his.
Oh, I love it. I got to go to my son's class and teach this, and it's so powerful.
Yeah.
Because they're giving speeches in their class. And this is something like public speaking is a huge fear that people have. And it comes down to feeling afraid of judgment.
Yeah.
And feeling like we're not enough. And we are. We are enough. Even if you mess up, like even if something goes wrong, you're still enough.
I love that so much. I was going to ask you what your parting message would be, but I think that's the perfect ending right there. That's so wonderful. Karaleigh, thank you so much for your time.
You are so welcome. I loved being here. Thank you for having me.
Wow, what an episode. Karaleigh truly embodies the spirit of seeking sunshine amidst life's challenges. Her insights and embracing neurodiversity, both in herself and her family, remind us that our quirks are not just traits, but superpowers. If her story resonated with you, and I mean, how could it not? Be sure to check out her podcast, Be the Dream, for more doses of inspiration. Remember, parenting is never a one-size-fits-all journey, especially for those of us navigating the neurodivergent path. Until next time, guys, stay caffeinated, stay chaotic, and most importantly, stay true to your own unique rhythm.